whole idea of bringing diversity, so the S part, we would say, is around the diversity of our people and our businesses. And my first question actually is to Ian, if I may, and that is, as an industry, how can we embed the S in as a norm, basically, in our energy projects, in particular in relation to the communities in which we work with, So how can we, in the way that we embrace safety, how can we embrace the S of the ESG in the way that we do things?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I guess for me, when we talk about embedding the S into our projects, it's almost too late. We want to be embedding the S into the way that we work, and I think safety is a great example. It's probably the one area of our industry where there's no real competition. Everybody is on board. It's part of our DNA. It's the way we work, and I think that whole social aspect of whether it's just better communication, information to the communities that we work in, help and support the education, so even starting at school through university, so that we get the right people for the people that we need in our industry, which is changing as we go along. We've gone from very mechanical, maybe electrical type people, to now we need data scientists and people who can do the electronics and robotics and communication. So there's a lot of change happening, and I think we as an industry, we need to do a much better job of communicating that and just embedding it in our DNA, like safety is now.
Thank you very much, Ian. And I think you touched on the changes that we're seeing as an industry. I'd like to follow up with you, please, Chioma, if you don't mind, because I think there may be some changes in terms of the definitions of what S actually is in ESG that we would maybe as an industry like to actually bring about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so definitely. So for those of us who've been here over the last 2-3 days, and the conversation around energy transition and where the energy industry sees itself now and the impact on communities. So the social sort of traditionally has been about diversity, human capital, how organizations impact their own people. But looking forward and looking at the energy transition and the conversations we've had, it's going to be more about creating social opportunities for the communities that we operate in. It's going to be more about infrastructure, like he said, access to health programs, improving the lives, even from a learning perspective, of our communities, right? And that is what social will now be defined as, not just the internal impact, but a lot around the external as it pertains to communities we operate in. That's the way I see it.
Thank you, and I think that actually, as an industry, we've struggled with actually the whole diversity, inclusivity. We've struggled with that aspect, but I think that we're here in Africa. It's really about and it's not about either or. So it's about cleaner oil and gas, but also new energy sources, and we've struggled as an industry with the demographics. I'd like to ask everyone up here, why did you join this industry?
So mine is, so I think I bring the diverse thinking because my background is communications, but I've been in banking, I've been in FMCG, I've worked in telco. So the way I see diversity, and I think we had that conversation earlier at the back, is it's not just a gender conversation, it's not just a demographic conversation, it's also a thought process, it's also different experiences, and that's part of what the social is, right? So for me, I joined oil and gas because I think I bring a diversity of thought, and it's an industry I've always wanted to be a part of because I see the impact in the community for good and for bad. And I think part of giving back and just contributing your quota, you can't always be on the outside saying, big oil is doing this, big oil is not doing that. It's important to actually be a part of the change that you want. So that's...
Absolutely. I think this is the point, actually, about, so for me, diversity is not about gender, it's not about ethnicity necessarily, okay, but it's about valuing and appreciating the differences and allowing those to be included in conversation, everything as a whole. So, personally, when we talk about, when we make it a woman-man thing, I'm not sure that I personally like it, but
so I, in which you're talking, I smile because I think more of it as human capital. And so it's the respect for human capital, period. So if the organization has social in its DNA, right, and it is the lifeblood of the organization, and we say that we respect and support human capital, and therefore we are trying to build this pipeline, like someone said here, of talent that works. That talent pool is both internal, and then you're supporting the external to fuel the internal. Actively supporting and respecting human capital across board is then, I believe, you then have a more sustainable and truly diverse organization.
Totally. So for me, I'm 30 years in this industry. We've been having this conversation about, gender balance, about diversity, about getting that balance right, whether it's in the workplace or on boards, for, well, certainly 30 years anyway, longer. So why are we still having the conversation? That's actually what I'd like to know. And I know we said we wouldn't bring the audience in, but I'd quite like to bring the audience in, if you don't mind. Because actually, my view is that we're still having this conversation because we're always talking to the converted. We're talking to the people who actually believe that, diversity and etc. and inclusion is the way we need to be. Somewhere we're not connecting with the whatever it is that needs to make change. So I would really like to hear about that from your perspectives, and then I'm going to ask you guys as well.
So just to build on that, so I think the doing is when the companies start to look at that through the lens of brand and reputation. So your accountability to your audience, right? So if you commit, right, and your reputation and your brand is built around, so it's in your DNA, back to what I said, is built around communicating these positive things, setting the example that says this organization is focused on the S, or ESG as it were, and this is how we exemplify it. So that sort of lens of the reputation, and when you know your reputation is at stake, you'll do everything it takes to actually project the right thing and do, not just say. And I think that's something that we need to take on board.
And with that thought, actually, we've got about 30 seconds left, but just one message that each of you would like to leave our audience with.
And if COVID has taught us anything, the future of work is diversity at the end of the day. Be it of thought, of gender, of ethnicity, of where you work, diversity is what it is.
What a great way to finish, actually. Thank you. I know I kind of went off-piste by asking the audience to interact. My apologies. But actually, I think I personally prefer that. Thank you. We're done.
No worries. Thank you so much, Emmanuel and your panel. I completely understand how tempting it is to want to engage with the audience. I really do understand it. But thank you very much. Kike, you spoke about Africa going at its own pace, and I think that's really important, that we shouldn't go at the pace that others are forcing us to go at. And I think that's amazing. And you spoke about partnering with universities to tailor-make programs, which I think is brilliant. Mike, I love that you joined the industry to travel and that you've landed yourself in Cape Town right now amongst many other destinations. It's not a bad reason amongst all the others. Ayatollah, giving up pink beaches for Lagos's vibe. I think it's good to go back home and give back to where you came from. But again, not just to make everything about gender particularly, which is where this conversation was going. It really should be about credit and merit and not just about gender. And Ian, I mean, if you're still working on what you want to be when you grow up, it's no wonder your daughter wants to be an influencer as well. But you know what? There's so much future in that because that's where the world is going. So don't underestimate that. It might actually be on a university prospectus as an actual degree. You never know. And Chioma, thank you as well for sharing. I'm inspired as somebody who has a background in communications as well. Never thought I would engage with an oil and gas audience like this, but it is inspiring and also just emphasizing diversity above everything. So thank you all so much for the nuggets that you shared. This was definitely a nice way to end the day, a nice social discussion, but a very important one. So thank you, Iman, and thank you to the panelists. Cheers.